Disney's Snow White is finally here, and it's a disaster. Critics confused, audiences furious, box office numbers. Let's just say Disney might want to rethink its live-action remakes. So, what went so wrong? Was it the casting, the political overtones, or just another soulless cash grab? Let's break it down. Snow White is out, and the reception is brutal. Only 46% of viewers rated above a 5, making it clear this film is struggling. And honestly, I expected critics to love it. After all, it's a modernized, socially conscious take on a classic. But instead, it's debuting with one of the worst Rotten Tomatoes scores for any live-action Disney remake. And it's not just Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, a brutal 2.1 Google reviews. Even worse, 1.4, that's not just bad, it's historically bad. The biggest issue? This Snow White has no idea what it wants to be. It's been stripped of its fairy tale charm and thrown into an identity crisis. On one side, people think it's too progressive, forcing in modern themes that feel out of place. On the other, some argue it doesn't go far enough. The result? A film that pleases no one. And Disney's nightmare is just beginning. After months of backlash, rewrites, and controversy, Snow White has finally arrived, only to deliver a bizarre, uneven narrative with no real purpose beyond ticking diversity checkboxes. The original Seven Dwarfs were integral to the story, yet here, their presence feels forced, an afterthought hastily reinserted to dodge controversy rather than enhance the plot. This Snow White doesn't know what it wants to be. It's been stripped of its fairy tale charm and thrown into an identity crisis. On one side, some argue it's too progressive, stuffing in modern themes that feel out of place. On the other, some say it doesn't go far enough. The result? A film that pleases no one. Critics describe it as a chaotic clash of two opposing visions, one that wants to be a traditional fairy tale, and another that leans heavily into political allegory. The film delivers speeches on class struggle, wealth, redistribution, and even a forced peasant revolt, making it one of Disney's most blatantly political films in years. Even the BBC, of all places, called it a bluntly political reimagining that barely resembles the original. And let's talk about the dwarves. Oh wait, we're not even supposed to call them that anymore. Initially cut from the film, they were awkwardly reinserted as a half-hearted attempt to address backlash. Their inclusion feels clumsy, and the film struggles to justify why they're even there. The issues don't stop there. The music? Forgettable. The dialogue? Clunky. The performances? Unconvincing. Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White is shaping up to be one of the most controversial in Disney history. From her dismissive comments about the original film to her uninspired delivery in this new version, it's clear that Disney wasn't interested in preserving the magic of the past. Instead, they prioritized making a statement, and audiences are rejecting it outright. Even positive reviews struggle to defend the film. Some call it bold and ambitious, yet still admit it's lifeless and uninspired. And here's the kicker. It's not just conservatives or traditional Disney fans who are upset. Even progressive reviewers, the very audience Disney was hoping to win over, are calling it a mess. Why? Because when a film is built purely on ideology instead of storytelling, it loses its soul. Disney tried to create a movie for everyone, but in doing so, they made a movie for no one. If this film proves anything, it's that Hollywood's relentless need to rewrite beloved classics simply isn't working. You don't win audiences over by dismantling what made these stories timeless. You do it by understanding why they resonated in the first place. And yet, this is where Disney keeps failing, again and again. They take cherished properties, strip them of their original heart, and replace them with the same predictable messaging. Then, when audiences reject it, they act shocked. We've seen it with The Little Mermaid. We saw it with Peter Pan and Wendy. And now, Snow White is the latest victim of Disney's never-ending mission to modernize everything. Worse still, Disney doesn't seem to have learned anything from past failures. Instead of focusing on strong storytelling, compelling characters, and genuine emotion, they pour hundreds of millions of dollars into films that feel more like corporate checklists than actual cinema. Every new remake is stuffed with corporate-approved progressive elements, not because they enhance the story, but because they signal a message. And audiences are tired of it. Then there's the budget disaster. Reports suggest Disney spent upwards of $250 million on Snow White, not including marketing costs. That means it needs to earn at least $500 million just to break even. But with this kind of backlash, it's hard to see how it even gets close to that. Audiences are tuning out. They're skipping Disney's latest releases. And if Snow White is any indication, we may be looking at the beginning of a major reckoning for Hollywood's obsession with remaking the past instead of creating something new. It's becoming an all-too-familiar headline. Another Disney remake crashes and burns at the box office. But this time, the failure of Snow White 2025 isn't just about poor financial performance, it's a symptom of something far deeper. For decades, Disney was known for its groundbreaking animation, breathtaking visuals, and timeless storytelling. But this live-action remake of Snow White lacks all of that magic. The once vivid, hand-drawn beauty of the original has been replaced with uninspired cinematography, an overuse of CGI, and a color palette that looks strangely dull and lifeless. Even the costumes, which were once a hallmark of Disney's creativity, appear bland and forgettable. It's as if Disney has completely lost touch with what made its stories beloved in the first place. What made classic Disney films timeless wasn't just their visual appeal, it was their heart. Characters like Cinderella, Ariel, and Belle weren't just icons of animation, they were deeply relatable. Their stories weren't about pushing a message, they were about universal values. These themes have resonated with generations of audiences, regardless of time or culture. But somewhere along the way, Disney lost sight of this. Instead of crafting adventures filled with wonder, charm, and character growth, they've shifted their focus to messaging over magic, and the audience has noticed. People don't go to movies to be lectured. They go to movies to be transported to new worlds, to connect with compelling characters, and to experience the kind of adventure that only great storytelling can provide. Yet Snow White 2025 fails on all fronts. The fallout from Snow White isn't just about bad critic reviews or underwhelming box office numbers. It's a clear sign of audience fatigue. Social media is flooded with memes mocking the film. Its tone, visuals, and lack of charm are being widely criticized. Longtime Disney fans are losing trust in the brand, with many expressing disappointment in the direction the company is headed. Merchandise sales are declining, engagement is dropping, and the Disney brand itself is starting to lose its once unshakable reputation. This isn't just about one movie, it's about a studio at a crossroads. What's next? Will Disney continue to ignore its own legacy? Now, Disney is faced with a critical decision. Do they continue on this path of hyper-modernization, where every character is reimagined through a narrow socio-political lens? Or do they take a step back and reflect on why their original stories worked in the first place? The truth is, Disney's success was never just about the animation or the songs. It was about telling stories that connected with people on a deep, emotional level. But instead of honoring its legacy, Disney is treating its past as something shameful, something to be erased rather than celebrated. The irony, in trying to make its stories more modern and inclusive, they've actually made them less appealing to everyone. Inclusivity isn't about erasing the past. It's about building a better future while respecting what came before. The failure of Snow